Hey everybody, Will Fix here with Crypto Maximus. We're still spending time together. We're having a good time. Thought we'd do another collaboration. And we're going to talk about ISO 20022 coins. So in this video, we will brief those, give a brief description, show the price, but the highlight is going to be on XDC. And the reason we're picking that, we feel like it's the best priced right now and probably going to be the best value for people to pile some up and pile up a big bag. So that's what we thought we would discuss. But real quick, we're going to take 60 seconds. We're supported by offering the decent wallets, and we really appreciate your time. So here's a 60-second commercial, and then we'll get started.
If you don't have a cold storage wallet, I suggest a decent wallet. They're unmatched in security. They've perfected the fingerprint technology to secure your assets the decent with the world's first biometrically secured cryptocurrency wallet. So what does that mean? That just means you can open up the application with your thumbprint instead of punching in your password. But if you lose your thumb, you can still punch in your password. So what else do they have? It also gives you the ability that you can download this application that syncs with the device. And then you have a very large screen that you can see all of your assets, all of your balances. It gives you also several abilities in there to exchange, swap, and purchase other cryptocurrencies. You'll find this a very valuable tool, and you'll enjoy this wallet. Use the link that's popping up in the top right of your screen now and purchase one, or the link that's in the description. Thank you.
Ripple is cryptocurrency designed for financial institutions. Well, it enables instant, low-cost international transfers. It is ISO 222 compliant. It enhances the role in the global payment network.
XLM, we're giving you brief descriptions. XLM, Stellar Lumens, powers the Stellar Network, aiming to connect people to low-cost financial services to fight poverty and foster inclusion. ISO 20022 compliant also, and that aids in this mission.
XDC is going to be one of the highlights, but XDC targets trade, finance, and real-world applications. It merges public and private blockchain benefits. ISO 222 compliance, and it positions it for seamless interaction with traditional finance.
HBAR is another ISO 200 coin, known for its speed and security. Hedera uses a unique consensus algorithm. It's ISO 20022 compliant, and it makes it suitable for enterprise level applications.
I've been into ADA since last bull market. It's been a long-term hold. A little frustrated with it, but that's okay. I'm not trying to get too emotional. But Cardano focuses on sustainability and scalability in blockchain technology through peer-reviewed research. Its ISO 222 compliance supports its integration into global financial systems.
IOTA is tailored. It's also ISO 20022 compliant, but it's tailored for Internet of Things. IOTA, Internet of Things, IoT, allows feeless transactions and data integrity. It's ISO, of course, 20022 compliant, and is pivotal for IoT and machine-to-machine interactions.
Algorand, I'm in that, is a particular blockchain that is pure proof of stake blockchain protocol. It's efficient, it's secure, it has transactions, and basically ISO 222. It facilitates its use in financial applications, of course, beyond just crypto.
And last but definitely not least is Quant. It's an ISO 20022 coin, and Quant's overledger enables interoperability among various blockchains, and it ensures it can bridge traditional finance and blockchain technology efficiently. And when you put that together with all of these other coins, it means if they have Quant, it doesn't matter what the other side uses. The side A can shove anything in there, go through the overledger, and out the other side will pop whatever the other side
basically needs. And there was another point on quant that you were talking about in the creation of, was it smart contracts?
Well, yeah. The other thing you have to keep in mind is, yes, Quant is an ISO 222, but it also has its own ISO standard, which is created by Gilbert Verdian of the Quant network, which is called ISO TC 307. It is their own particular standard, and that standard literally means, by definition, the foundation for building on blockchain. So that's a standard in itself, and TC 307 orchestrates ISO 222 messaging. So when I use that in the analogy of, Gilbert Verdian is leading up a orchestra, if you will. He is the conductor, and you have Ripple, and you have many different one's part of the Ripple choir, if you will, with maybe a whole set of flutes, or Stellars, a whole set of violins. But it's that orchestration, and it's seeing how it all comes together. XDC, Algorand, and so on. It's a really interesting thing, to say the least.
Well, that's a brief on the ISO 20022s. We're going to spend a little more time with XDC, so here that goes.
We have a video that we thought we would start with, so let's go ahead and share that with you, and then we'll speak about it.
The greatest piece of what's happening, I think, with tokenization of real world assets is that it actually builds credibility within the traditional world. Institutions everywhere are stepping in, and nobody wants to kind of miss the boat on this. I think the pathway to where we're getting to is how RWAs and the ability for small or medium investors, people that are really kind of out of the system, have an opportunity down the road to really become a part of what's going on in a way where barriers to entry are significantly less and lower. And, everybody has an opportunity to essentially, invest in a real world yield bearing asset, right? And I think that's really our focus here is how are we going to get from where we are to where we're going? There's a lot of work that's happened between then and now to get us to a point where we have actual means to help businesses directly with accounts receivable financing through private credit. It's not just about building the rails to make that happen. It's also, you got to bring, distribution, you got to bring investors. You have to bring all of these people together with partners that are building on the network. And what we've done in terms of, working with people like Trade Tech, and then bringing the integration on with Securitize. And there's, this is an evolution that's just starting to happen. But those are the things that allow you to really start to take action, like with real assets in the space. But I do think now, this is what has established us as a chain that's very serious about this. We see it. Oh, the trade finance gap is X. Imagine when it gets to this much that it's like covered by the network. And that's just the completely wrong way of looking at anything that's going on. I mean, you can talk about trying to close that gap, but the reality is we're looking at it from what is it that we can do to help other businesses come online, SMEs, and get financed, and how do we build from that, or what we choose to do from there will become evident by the success that we have in that area. It goes down to, like, we're not trying to boil the ocean. And I think it's really very clear, you do need to be hyper-focused on what you want to do. You need to know your target audience. You need to know what the pain points are. You need to know why you're doing what you're doing. And I often state, like we eat RWAs for breakfast. Like that's really kind of like, that's the only thing, like that we really need to focus on doing. What we've done with XDC 2.0, which is to create a better environment for institutions and enterprises to come on and operate within essentially the type of construct they need to have in order to protect their information. I mean, these are centralized entities. They're probably always going to be centralized entities for the most part. And there's a lot of sensitive data. There's jurisdictional issues where, they need to have people who are confirming transactions in particular locations, perhaps tokens or other things that they want to create to help use within their system. And that could just be, incentive, utility for gas, things that actually happen within whatever they want to build. One of the things we've really just tried to do is to create something that brought a level of that security to the network and allow institutions to feel really secure about what it is that they're doing with their information. So they can run their own nodes. They can transfer to and from the public network to any subnet. There's special smart contracts that have been created so that information flows back and forth and is confirmed from one to the other. So it's not just here's a bridge and let's move something. There's actually communication that's happening between them. There's ways of swapping and bringing, DEXs and other opportunities within the public network for, the businesses that are building on top of those subnets. And so, what we've really just tried to do is create a very robust environment. And also the opportunity is, you're now doing transactions outside of the network. And so therefore, when we're looking at, how transactions are happening, when we're looking at finality, when we're looking at speed, transaction speed, and all of that, or, all of these things are, the trilemma, which you're trying to, scalability and everything is all part of what we're trying to create.
Welcome back, everybody. So one of the main things we were going to discuss was Quincy Jones actually reposted 2 days ago in regards to his announcement of his collaboration with Genfinity. A lot of you guys are familiar with this particular project as part of the XDC ecosystem, but we realized that they're not just with XDC exclusive, but I thought it was important to recognize it because in the video from 2 days ago, he did a deep dive with these particular people from the project, and it was about roughly 1 hour. And if anything, maybe in the future, when we have a little more time, we'll get more into that. There's some significance in regards to what Quincy was mentioning, and of course, a couple things I want to get into in regards to Will here. So basically, it's like this: if you're not familiar with Generation Infinity, well, the XDC network, as we know, like it says, bringing enterprise trade and community into a golden era of innovation. A lot of us feel that we are literally in this golden era of innovation. Some people refer to it as maybe the Great Reset. Some people refer to it as the next generation of the internet. But in reality, it's understanding what still has a tremendous amount of value, and can you buy a lot of XDC? Would you be able to load up the most? Well, let's face it, the answer is yes, because of the price. The thing I want to get into real quick before Will and I elaborate a little bit more about this, I want you to understand that when we talk about XDC and you're brand new, what stands out is the trade sector. Okay, so as we know, especially the last 4 years, give or take, there's always been an issue when it comes to supply chain problems. How do you actually solve that? Well, listen to this. The trade finance sector has long been the unsung hero of global commerce, facilitating the flow of goods and capital across borders. Yet, despite its importance, trade finance remains plagued by inefficiencies, access barriers. I have to agree with some of these statements. And it's been plagued by all this. But the significance is that the trade finance gap is estimated to be around 3 trillion globally. So how does something like XDC solve some of these problems? For one, was the passing of the Electronic Trades Documents Bill. As we know, that's an act. But see what you want, Will, moving forward by having something that's going to take out the middleman and cutting through all that red tape. I don't care if it's UPS, FedEx, and so on. My attitude is if you have something that's going to solve a real world problem, and let's face it, supply chain is a huge deal, and XDC is at the forefront, this has to have tremendous value moving forward.
I agree. And something we talked about earlier was the use case in Japan. It wasn't with XDC, but Japan was such a great place to test supply chain or to operate with supply chain tokenization. And here's the value of it. If you think about Japan, Japan is a string of a bunch of islands. So to be able to travel or to have supply there, you have a multiple ways that your supply, if you make a widget, in other words, and you live in on a Japanese island and you need a thingamajig for your widget, in order to complete your production, well, if you tokenize your supply chain, you can tell where your thingamajigs are so you can complete your widget. And in Japan, you have land travel, sea travel, air travel. You have high peaked mountains. You have storms. You have very cold weather. You have good climate weather. You have trucking. So you have vehicles, planes, trains, and sea. And so you have every situation you can think of in Japan to go wrong for supply chain. So why is that so significant? Well, the old way is, hey, we got a call, our stuff's going to be slow, something happened. The new way is they can see it on a screen where it's at because they tokenize, then they GPS locate this stuff, and they provide a token that says, "Hey, there's 1,000 thingamajigs on the way." So the extra added benefit to that is, oh man, that ship broke down. So they're saying it's going to be probably at least 3 days before they get that thing here, before they get it to the port, where then it's going to have to travel by land, and so it's probably going to be 4 days. We can get thingamajigs so we can finish our widgets from this other supplier that's a little more expensive before then. That way we're not losing money every day. So so it's a real world problem and a real world answer that XDC solves. And right now, what is it, a nickel and a half a
Yeah, and
token?
it was for the longest time a rate slightly below 3 cents.
Yeah.
So
So we're just now not even 6 cents a token with that. And we thought we would highlight this particular token because of that price action. And as you saw in the briefing that we did earlier, it is the lowest priced, Quant's the highest priced. All of these are solving problems. But, the psychology of a low priced token always grabs us because it's like, man, I can stoke up on that and have hundreds of those, if not thousands, for X amount of dollars. So that brings XDC as a value. It's solving huge issues. What did they reference? $3 trillion?
3 trillion globally.
Yeah, so a $3 trillion solution, that's just this one particular solution. It's not all of the solutions that XDC is bringing. But anyway, we just wanted to highlight that significance of XDC. And is there more that
Yeah,
we?
there actually is. So, one of the things that we brought up was the whole thing of Genfinity. You guys are more than welcome to check out Quincy Jones. Highly recommend him. He's awesome, right? So the other thing was when we're talking about the gap in regards to trade finance. Just listen to this for a second. So, as we know, trade finance gap refers to the difference between the demand for trade finance and also the available supply. Okay, and so for some people, it's like there's all sorts of different projects where, one project, let's face it, Ripple,
Mhm.
100 billion particular coins, Stellar is 50 billion. And of course, it's like, well, where does XDC come involved in that? Listen to this for a second. So, back to the whole thing about supply. This gap has been widening in recent years due to factors like economic uncertainty, regulatory challenges, all these coins that we're talking about. Let's face it, 2025 are going to be meeting some of these challenges. Well, what challenges um, can be solved in the meantime? And more importantly, would challenges be solved due to regulatory compliance? I think the answer is yes. But when we talk about enterprise, understand this: XDC is not just about the whole thing of enterprise. So, for one, small and medium sized enterprises are particularly hard hit. We know about that. Often lack resources or access to traditional banking systems to secure financing they need to trade internationally. Now, I talked briefly with Will about this. I've shared this with you guys. I feel as though that Clearpool is a very underrated project because they are able to supply, for example, the want and need for venture capital to get basically the financing they're needing. And I don't care who it is. Any VC needs to, for one, get funded. But the problem with traditional finance is you have the collateral. Well, what about having something that's going to vet some of this? So, can XDC answer the problem for small and medium enterprises? The answer is yes. This is where Genfinity comes in, Just a quick note in regards to them as I switch back to it. I do apologize. I'm not at my traditional computer because I'm here with Will, which is good. Great, by the way, right? Happy Thanksgiving to all of you guys, by the way. But one thing I want to point out, just in case you didn't know about this, okay? So 1 month ago, there's this thing called ICC. They launched the reliability test for digital trade platforms. The reason why we're bringing this to you guys is because it's like this. We've seen so much going on with Stellar. We see so much what's going on with Ripple. People have asked in the community. We pay attention to what you guys say. We might not be able to answer everything, but we do see the common comments, and it's like, all right, who's the third wave of this? Right? Like one I'm not even mentioning, LCX is killing it. I'm very pleased with this. But here's what's encouraging. So 1 month ago, on October 17th, there was this report about this. And again, it's a test in response to the Electronic Trades Documents Act and, of course, the UN Model Law. Just real quick, it said, basically speaking, that while they did an assessment of all this, they came to the conclusion that this launch was the most important first step in the development of a framework. All right. So as we know, all these things have its own individual framework, but it states here that it ensures digital trust at scale, important pillar to the digital trade ecosystem. So there's this person, his name is Keith Jansa, Digital Governance Council, says, quote, this is a major step towards international standardization and formal recognition of digital service providers enabling global digital trade, and we look forward to continuing our work with the ICC and electronic transferable record. Also, there's the whole thing of emulator. We've studied this in the past for over the last couple of years, but again, the whole thing of the UK government. So here's the bottom line. The UK government has already set the standard, if you will, by going from the part where this was introduced as a bill, this becomes a law. But it's taking out the whole thing of middlemen. And what I mean by that is eliminating physical paperwork. Now, how so? Well, a long time ago when I think actually was it 2022, just real quick, 2022 was when March of 2022 ISO 222 went live. Okay, XRP didn't rip, Stellar didn't rip, but XDC went up 70% in regards to that. Okay, that was significant, but it's not a mandate. It just means what's live. It's kind of like we're in this room right now. All right, we came into the room, but how many other rooms are in this house that have the light switch on? Are they being utilized? The answer is no. How do we apply that to some of these other things when we talk about blockchain and so on? So my key thing is understanding XDC collateralizes the XDC token, if you will, the coin, okay, but through ISO 222. So if this went live in 2022 in March, when we talk about this mandate coming up at the end of the year, well, are we oblivious to think that that XDC wouldn't rip again? I think the answer is yes, and that's where I think it's a sleeper, and I'm glad that Will came up with the idea, you know what, let's just talk about all these instead of just do one. But this is the highlight because, again, last month I didn't see a lot of people reported the whole thing on the ICC. That test was successful. What happens when we get the proper regulations? Well, for me, it's an action. Every action has a reaction. Supply meets demand. We are seeing a taste of the utility run. It's no longer a taste. It's a snack, as my analogy would say. And it's going from that to this. This speaks volumes because if they're testing it, the next step is regulations. And if the next step is regulations and there's ready law, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, and two, wasn't it? Is it December of 2025? The ISO has decided whoever Bank of International Settlements, maybe it's the monetary International Monetary Fund, maybe it's a collaboration, but whoever came up, whatever panel came up with this requirement, if you're not ISO 20022 compliant at the end of 2025, you don't get to play in global financing. You don't get to, in other words, if you have a company that does international trade, you're shut down. You don't get to play, which really puts it means 2024 is going to be freaking amazing because they're forced into at least complying. And I believe that's just on a communication level. But as you guys know, as far as the ISO communication, is that all of these products are communication and the actual transfer of the money so that settlement can happen, which is, if you're going to do one, why not include the other, right? Why would you say, okay, so I have the legal compliant email that we're going to have to transfer this money and then go to the Swift system? Why would you do that when you can go ahead and line yourself up with, well, we can get the payment and the communication in 3 seconds? Why wouldn't you go ahead and do that? And all of this money that's going to move in real world assets and the tokenization of supply chains and the DeFi that XDC is going to bring, the financing, all of this stuff is going to be for global. They're not just trying to work in one little country. These are global finance companies. So it's exciting to me to know that all of this has to be by the end of 2025, and then we already know there's all kinds of clarity coming, right? Trump's promised clarity of regulations within the first 100 days. We already know Gensler stepping down January the 20th, and the butthole had to wait until inauguration day, like as if there's hope that won't happen, is kind of the slap in the face there. Because generally, last week was the week that most chairs step down when there's a party shift, and they just politely step down because they know the next one's going to appoint, but not him. No, he wanted to wait. So if he would have taken my advice before he announced he stepped down, look how much money he would have made if he would have bought a lot of XRP, then announced the step down. Yeah, he would have doubled his money, Max. And then be able to afford to pay those attorneys for, what is it, 18 states suing him, and I hope I hope it's personal lawsuits and not just SEC lawsuits. Now that's mean. I shouldn't say that. But let me just say it this way: if it is that they're personally suing him, he's going to probably have to have attorneys from each state, unless he has just attorneys who are going to tackle the 18 different states' laws as he has to defend against these lawsuits, lest he's just going to go ahead and pay them, pay the lawsuit.
For sure.
Sometimes you just lose money because, you do lose money because you're battling the lawsuit. In my businesses, I'm in the bail bond business, and in the business of kicking in doors and going in and arresting people and yanking them out of their houses, you do end up with lawsuits. And I have 2 going on now. And I'll just tell you right now, it costs you a lot of money to defend, even if you win, right? It still costs you a ton of cash. Anyway, long story short, I gave him good advice, Max.
No, it's great.
He should have held back his resignation and made sure he invested in XRP.
Who knows? Maybe he secretly owns it. But the point is, we're glad to bring this to you guys. Glad to do these collaborations. I only have a few more days left with Will, but something that we're talking about in the future is potentially doing a channel where we come together, and it's just like, something that we do on a regular, maybe not physically in the same room, but that's the beauty of remote work, right? So we can do this on these virtual, Zoom or StreamYard and so on. So glad to bring it to you guys. Hey, if you guys appreciate this content, all we kindly ask you to do is to like, comment, subscribe, and if you're a big fan, share the content.
Yeah, thank you for watching. And every time you hit the thumbs up, man, you guys know that blesses us. We love it. We love to see all the likes, because then more people see it. And honestly, if you just want to know the truth, it's fun to see those numbers grow and to see the clicks. It's satisfying to see how many people view. And you guys have really been knocking it out of the park. We're getting thousands and thousands of views, and we just appreciate it. I don't know, wouldn't be any fun if you didn't get any views, so thank you so much, and we'll see you next video.
Have a great Thanksgiving, everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving.